Hi class, this is your professor, Mary Moen, and I'm here to just do a really quick overview of the syllabus for LSC530. This is for students in the class the summer of 2021. I love this course. It's really fun to teach it, and everybody's usually very invested in it, so I'm looking forward to having a really great time learning with you this summer. So moving along to our syllabus, in the first page here, just some information about the course, the learning objectives, the workload, and the required textbook. I'm just going to kind of highlight some of the things that you might have questions about. So the first thing here is the weekly activities. Combined, all these activities account for 15% of the final grade, and you can see some weeks 1 and 2, there's actually two activities for each week, but after that you have one activity a week. A little word of warning, there's a couple of them that you might want to plan ahead of time, especially the week 3 where you go into a school library to evaluate the section of a traditional tale or poetry section of a library. One thing I want to say about that activity is that, in all, just evaluate like 25 to 40 books. The poetry section could be 100 books, but it's just to give you some hands-on experience to go through part of a collection. But like think about 25 to 30, maximum 40 books that you're going to go through and evaluate. One thing during week 4, you have the field experience of interview a children's librarian. If you plan ahead, if you interview them while you're evaluating the section of the library, you can actually get both those experiences done in one visit to the library if you have time for that. For those of you in the school library media track, if it's possible to go to a school library and interview them and look through their poetry or traditional tale section, I highly recommend that. I encourage you to reach out, introduce yourself to a local elementary school librarian to get this done if that is convenient for you. I realize school libraries are only open during the school hours, so if it's not convenient for you, then please go into a public library and in the children's department and complete the assignments there. All right, so week 6 is a virtual book discussion. So around week 3, I'll be sending you a survey of what you might want to read, and I put you in groups. And then by the end of week 6, where we will have had a really nice small group book discussion on a book geared for probably like 8 to 12-year-olds. Speaking about who this class, what age group really is children's. In this class, it's about age 4 to age 12. And I have written in other places that, when you get up to the age 12, a lot of people want to go into the young adult literature, or middle school literature is fine, but young adult, this is not a course in young adult literature. So we're focusing on age 4 to 12. So if you could please do your assignments with that age group as your target audience, I really expect that to happen, and I would really appreciate it. Thank you. All right, so let me talk a little bit about the reading log. So, in addition to the textbook, you are going to be reading children's literature. So make sure you set up time to read that as well. You can go to your public library and get books. You can go on interlibrary loan and get books. You can go into if you're from Rhode Island, any public library, you can go to their children's section and browse and get recommendations, however you want to read your books, that's fine with me. You can also ask me for recommendations. And there's plenty in your textbook as well. But so in week 2 here, you're supposed to read 4 picture books. And there are some things you have to do to write in your log, and it's right up here, the reading log criteria. So the genre, the citation, just a 3 to 4 sentence summary of the book. Don't go too crazy with this. But I'd also, to make sure you read it, I'd also like some personal comments evaluating the book from the perspective of a library. And I'd like you to use at least 2 evaluation criteria for the genre that you learned about from the readings. And then I'd also like an idea of how you might use the item in your library. And so the log due dates there's actually 3 sections that the reading log is due. So at the end of week 2, the first post is due, and it's the 4 picture books. Then in weeks 3, 4, and 5, 3, 4, and 5, you're going to be reading things. And then during week 7, you'll see down here that the second iteration, the second installment, let's say, of your reading log is actually due. And those are the books you read through weeks 3 through 6. And then you're going to be reading more in 8, 9, and in week 7, 8, and 9. And then on week 10, the last installment of your reading log is due. So it gives you some flexibility. You don't have to post every single week, but you can. But if you think of weeks 2, 7, and 10 are when you really have to have your reading logs in and formally done. I went through some of that already. The weekly discussions, it's worth to combine. They're worth 10% of your final grade. I would like you to start a new thread and post by 11:55 on Fridays and respond to at least 2 other classmates' posts by 11:55 on Sundays. Our week starts Monday and ends on Sundays. So this means you actually have to do the readings during the week. You can't save them for the weekend. And I like to kind of nudge people to read during the week because then they have the weekend to do the activities and anything else. So the expectation is that you read at least 5 other classmates' posts, but you need to respond to at least 2 different classmates' posts. Now, so your initial posts and then your 2 responses, they have to be on 2 different days, like any combination, but at least 2 different days. And there's a scoring guide here where if these are situations that happen, your initial post is late or missing, or responses to classmate posts are late or missing, or points off if they're not on 2 different days. And if the first week you mess up a little bit, I mean, no worries. It's not just from then on, do the right thing if you want to earn all the points. All right, so then you have some assignments here. The childhood reading memoir. I think students really like this. To help you connect with the content in this course, I'm getting you to think back about you as a child and your relationship with books and reading and who you read with and libraries, and it kind of helps you focus on what we'll be talking about. And I'm having you post to your blog because I think it's a good skill to have to start learning how to create a blog. A lot of librarians do that, do blogs to share ideas and express themselves and advocate for libraries or whatever. So you'll be doing that. Then there's 3 sort of bigger assignments: the children's major author illustrator study, a reading program and promotion, and the children's materials and services resource guide. And they're worth the same amount of points. One thing I find is that students, especially for the children's major author illustrator, a lot of times they pick the author that they're most familiar with because they love them. And I mean, that's fine, but I keep saying, the purpose of this class is to expand your repertoire, your familiarity, broaden your knowledge of children's literature. So whenever you can kind of get out of your comfort zone, I suggest doing that. And these assignments are graded by the same rubric, and I'll go over the rubric at the end just a little bit because I want to make sure you all understand something about how I grade. So then at the end of the class, there's a learning reflection. I'm really big on reflecting on your learning. I think it's a great way to kind of step back, see what you learned, synthesize ideas, internalize, grapple with things, with what you've learned. So there'll be a final learning reflection at the end. And here's our course schedule. And so it's a 10-week course, and this is what we're going to be doing each week. And it should be self-explanatory. If you have any questions or I made a typo or something doesn't make sense, I always tell my students, please email me. And I'm really happy that you're letting me know if something doesn't make sense, because my job is to make sure that there's clear expectations. And I don't know, sometimes building all these courses in Brightspace, and we went from Sakai, you know, transferring content. I mean, there's definitely opportunity for me to make an unintended error. So please let me know. Then at the end here are the course policies. I think one is like you can revise one assignment except for the final learning reflection and resource guide because they're the last week. So if you're not happy with your grade and you want to do better, you have to let me know, and you can revise it. Late work, I really don't accept late work. The only time I would consider giving an extension is if you notify me at least 24 hours in advance, telling me why, and we could agree on the penalty and the extension. And I'll do it on a case-by-case basis. If it's just that you didn't manage your time, or, you know, if this is a habit that every single time you ask me for an extension, then I will probably be less flexible about that, because time management is something that everyone needs to learn, especially if you're in an online course. And there's other information here. I'm not going to go through all this. This is just for you to read through and see what the learning outcomes are and the standards that you're being assessed and aligned with here. Okay, so I quickly want to go. I see I have 3 minutes to go over a rubric. And let's see, I want to do this view as learner. Okay. All right, so this is my assignment rubric. And hang on, okay. So what I want to point out is a lot of people don't look at the rubric. They do the assignment and they hand it in. Well, the rubric is a guide for me to make clear what you're supposed to do, and it helps me be fair and unbiased when I grade. So, for example, there's a section on content, and you can read the description for exceeds, meets the standard, nearly meets the standard. If you meet the standard, you're going to get like a 90. If you meet the standard in every one, you're going to get a 90. That's an A-. To me, that's meeting the standard. That gives room for people who do exceptionally well to exceed. Nearly meets is going to be an 80. This is the one I really want to talk about, the analysis. So I want to see that you have done some critical thinking, you're comparing, contrasting viewpoints. So in your assignments, I would like to have see 4 or more explicit connections in text citations to course content and readings. That's an easy one. If I don't see 4, if I just see 3, or if I don't see any, that's kind of, you sort of bomb this section. But I want to make sure you're showing me that you're taking what you're learning from the readings and you're able to apply it into these assignments. That's the big one I want to show you. So make sure you look at this. And so there's one for presentation and another one for completeness. And so you can read these. So I'm just suggesting that you take a look at the rubrics before you even start your assignment. It should help you. But in every all the assignments are up here in this tab, and all the weekly activities. Here's the major assignments. Like, go, you know, I have the rubric here even, and there's usually, this one doesn't have that many, but let's see. Let's go to the author illustrator study. Okay, so I have quite detailed instructions. Look at all this. You know, I've tried to make it as explicit as possible. So please read the assignment instructions fully before asking me questions and look at the rubric. And my time's about up. So thank you for listening, and I'll see you in class.